Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. Now, it's probably one of the most dejected episodes that we're ever going to do. We've got Chelsea off the back of an FA Cup loss, and we've got West Ham pretty much off the back of a terrible performance against Brighton, where we pretty much saw our top four chances, fade out into nothingness. Kweku, how you feeling about the final, man?
Um, there's mixed emotions. Obviously, initially as a Chelsea fan, when we lost, and the nature of how we lost in terms of the disallowed goal for VAR, and then there's a couple of worldy saves that Schmeichel makes. I was very very dejected at the time, and because there was so much emotion invested into it, and I think that the fans' presence there enhanced that. I feel like the fans being there kind of made it feel like a real football match and made it feel real and made it feel like there was actual like jeopardy for the game, and if you lost the game you were going to go home empty-handed. It actually made everything feel tangible. So I was really affected during the game and maybe about 10-15 minutes after the game, but then I sat back and thought to myself, like, if I was going to lose, or if Chelsea were going to lose to any team, you'd want it to be Leicester. You saw in the aftermath of the game in terms of the owner coming out onto the pitch and celebrating the players. They're a team that have done it the right way. And we had many a video where we're complaining about the ESL and the dawn of the Super League and how these big clubs don't really give a shit about the rest of the Premier League or about the rest of English football. And Leicester are one of these teams were on the outside looking in. And if you look at the ascendancy of Leicester in terms of how they won the Premier League organically and how they've built themselves to an actual top six club, not just in name, but in actual ability and skills that they put out on the pitch, I can only be happy for Leicester. And I feel like ultimately my team lost, but football won.
Very poetic, Kweku. I totally agree. You just look at the way Leicester are run from top to bottom, and it's just an incredible football club, especially in the last 10 years. I'm actually envious. I think that most football fans are going to be envious of being a Leicester fan in general, because, are arguably the greatest sporting achievement of all time, watching them win the Premier League. They've got owners that are they just ooze class. Like they I don't know if you saw, but they sent out the letter to all the season ticket holders prior to the game, to the FA Cup game, saying, sorry you can't be at the game, but and with a bag of goodies and things like that, just letting the fans know that they are appreciated. And then you've only got to see, the aftermath of the game, like you said, where the emotions were running high. The owners came down, and you've got the backstory with the tragic incident that happened in the last few years with the helicopter crash. It's just an incredible club, and I'm very envious of any Leicester fans. When I lived in Nottingham for years, I was fortunate enough to go to the King Power, and it's one of the best games I've ever seen. I watched them play against Derby in a local derby, and yeah, just a great club, great stadium, great fans. And to really dive into Leicester, even their their recruitment process at the moment is top drawer. You look at the players that they've lost, like Ben Chilwell, for example, left them, went to Chelsea. They've replaced him, and they've, like, Harry Maguire, they've replaced him, and like Kante, they've replaced him. It's just,
yeah.
And it seems like they've got a Brendan Rodgers that's on top of his game, because if they win, or they've won the FA Cup, if they finish top four as well,
Yeah,
that's an incredible season.
What a season for the Leicester. And I feel like people get attached to the romanticized idea of football in terms of, oh, I want my club to be full of academy graduates, and I want my club to be a manager that's from England and whatever. But Leicester really epitomise what modern football is. It's a multicultural game. The owners are from a certain place, managers from a certain place. The players that make up the team, Jamie Vardy's from Sheffield. You have players, Fofana's from France. You have these players that are from different places, but they all come together in a melting pot, which is football, to make up a beautiful story, which is Leicester City. Like Brendan Rodgers, who was written off and had to go over to Celtic to rebuild his career. He comes back over. He takes a Leicester team that were not in, I wouldn't say they've never been in disarray since winning the Premier League, but they were kind of in limbo. They've gone through a few managers. Claude Puel didn't really work out. Obviously, he got rid of Ranieri. They had Craig Shakespeare, and he comes and really steadies the ship. You can, like you touched on, Jay. They have owners who understand it and get it and value their fans, and it was a win for football. And everybody that wasn't a Chelsea fan yesterday was rooting for Leicester to win that game.
Oh, so definitely.
I feel like I said, my team lost, but football won, and it was brilliant to see, like, the scenes, man. It was just crazy to see football back with the fans, and I feel like everybody can really look forward to having fans back in full force next season.
Yeah, and to be completely honest with you, Craig, just to jump onto something you said there in terms of football fans rooting for Leicester, I think that's true. And I think it does come down to the ESL argument. You know, there were 6 clubs in this country that thought they were better than the rest of football, didn't believe in competition. And you've got teams like Leicester and teams like West Ham that were trying to upset the establishment. Obviously, West Ham haven't done it, but Leicester have gone and won a big competition and now look to be finished in the top 4. So I feel, you know, football is behind teams like Leicester. And it's just an incredible achievement for them.
Yeah.
And you know, just hats off to Leicester. To Leicester, I watched the game, an incredible game, and you've got to say over 90 minutes. You know, like the difference between the side was an unbelievable goal in Youri Tielemens. You know, there's a reason he's starting for Belgium. You know, like, but you know, other than that, you can't really say. I don't think there was Chelsea were good enough to win the game. If I'm honest, I think Leicester did more than enough to win the game, and I think they were the better side in the second half.
Yeah. From an analytical point of view, as a Chelsea fan, what I would have liked to see is Christian Pulisic come on before Leicester scored their goal. And I know he was warming up and then they scored that worldie and then he came on subsequently. But as soon as they scored that goal, they were going to sit deep. There's going to be no space in behind. Essentially, at that point, Timo Werner and Christian Pulisic are null and voids. They're not going to have the effect that they would do if it was a Leicester who were playing at 0-0 and still had something to kind of go and get. So from that kind of point of view of things from Chelsea, it's a bit disappointing from Tuchel. I think the lineup was a little bit off, having Reece James playing as the right centre back and having Azpilicueta as a wing back. Was just a bit of a strange one to me. But even Chelsea fans want to latch on to the fact that, oh, Mendy would have saved that, or that VAR decision was bullshit. And I just feel like with the VAR decision, ultimately it was the right decision. I feel like it was the right decision. And people want to talk about VAR ruining the game of football, which I ultimately agree with. But it feels unbelievably sterile, VAR, in empty stadiums. But when you've got fans there, and from a Leicester fan point of view, that just added to the entertainment. That just added to the drama. Leicester fans were celebrating that, which is ultimately wrong in my opinion. Leicester fans celebrated that VAR decision like it was a goal, and added to the whole occasion. And as a Chelsea fan, I was absolutely crushed because I was celebrating Chilwell or Wes Morgan. It's again a bone of contention in terms of if that was an own goal or a Ben Chilwell goal. But I was celebrating that like it was a goal. And to then have that flip reversed and realize it wasn't. And after that happened, I knew that Leicester were going to win the game. It just was a game full of drama. And although it wasn't the best kind of football on the pitch, the sense of occasion was there and it was great to watch.
No, I totally agree. And ultimately, you know, VAR 90% of the time isn't the issue. It's the implementation of VAR. And like you say, it was the correct decision, right? You know, going on the current laws of the game and the current implementation of the offside rule and how VAR is meant to be implemented. It was the correct call. You know, regardless of how tight it is, you know, if it's going to be black and white, then it's offside, and you know, like that's always going to get called. And you know, it's just what VAR is at the moment, isn't it? Yeah. And in regards to, I feel like Chelsea fans are really damning of Kepa. I know he's had a few bad games this year. You know, before Mendy came in, Mendy's come in and had an unbelievable season, but that was an unbelievable strike, strike. I don't even know if some of the best keepers in the world would save that. You know, it was out of nowhere. Like that's just you. Sometimes you just have to appreciate that goal is of the highest quality. You know, and you can't just blame the keeper.
100%. And would I be lying if I'm thinking deep down in my soul and my heart, if that Mendy was playing, maybe he would have saved it. But that just takes away from the fact that Tielemens has scored one of the best goals you will ever see in an FA Cup final. And whether your second keeper would have saved that or not, he wasn't in goal, and that goal went in, and it went top bins, and the technique on it was brilliant. So whether Mendy would have saved it or not is kind of irrelevant because Mendy wasn't in goal, and we knew that Kepa was going to play this game, and we knew Kepa was going to play this game, and all Chelsea fans still picked us to win. So it is what it is. I like my overall sentiment is I was pissed off and I was angry when the game just finished, but football won.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just to jump a little bit into Chelsea, I mean, I've seen a few videos over YouTube in the last day or so with some Chelsea fans, obviously giving their takes on the game. A lot of people are starting to question the absence of Tammy Abraham. Wasn't in the lineup yet yesterday. Wasn't even in the squad, was he?
No, he wasn't even in the squad, which is crazy because Emerson was on the bench.
Yeah, so the thing that baffles me from an outsider, you know, looking into this, and I'm sure it baffles Chelsea fans as well, is Tammy Abraham's still your top scorer. You know, he is still your top scorer, and he hasn't played since January. Or
Yeah.
well, to be honest, I don't know the exact date, but since Tuchel's came in, it seems as if he's been frozen out the squad.
Yeah.
Are you meaning to tell me that he couldn't have made a difference in that game yesterday?
Yeah, well, the thing is, with the Tammy thing, I've kind of accepted it because I can't really question Tuchel's management at this point. Obviously, yesterday was probably the biggest blot on his record, although we have had like mishaps against Arsenal and West Brom. But it is just a puzzling one. It's a strange one. We all kind of know that Tammy Abraham's going to be off in the summer, but Chelsea, if anything, try to maintain the value of their assets. Hence why you see Alonso get a run out. Hence why you see Emerson get a run out, because they know that those are assets that have value and they want to maintain as much value in those assets as possible. So to completely rule out Tammy Abraham and to not have him in the squad, when a team like West Ham comes in to bid for someone like Tammy Abraham and they're like, we're going to pay X amount, and Chelsea are like, no, we want this, and West Ham are like, but you weren't even playing him last season, so we know that he's not that valuable to you. So the Tammy Abraham is very, very puzzling. And if this summer we see youth team prospects or players that came through our youth team like Tammy Abraham and like Fikayo Tomori leave Chelsea for relatively small fees, there's going to be questions to be asked if we don't win trophies over the next few years, because these are players that not only come through the academy and have a great like feel good factor to them, but they're players that can operate on the highest level, in my opinion. And we've seen
Yeah,
in the Serie A.
you've seen Tomori what he did to Ronaldo last weekend.
Yeah, yeah,
He's performing at the highest level. Let's be
yeah,
honest. AC Milan have had a solid season,
yeah,
and for as solid as Chelsea have been throughout this season. Do you mean to tell me that a season on the bench for Fikayo Tomori, learning from Thiago Silva? Look how Zuma's flourished this year. You mean to tell me that Tomori wouldn't have done something, been able to do something similar? It's a
yeah,
baffling one. It's a baffling one, and I know me and you have had our back and forths all season about Tammy Abraham, but he can offer something, and I know Werner, as much as I'm constantly on his case, I know he offers, the pressing of the sides. But yesterday, I don't know what Werner did in 90 minutes. I honestly don't know. I saw him run at the Leicester defense once or twice. He dragged a shot wide. He just looks so low on confidence. I just don't know what he offers. I don't.
yeah.
I
See, I can see what he offers, but it's not enough, because the problem with Chelsea is that we have midfielders that are great midfielders in Kovacic and Jorginho and in Kante that are great at circulating the ball. Kante is one of the best in the world at what he does, but they don't offer you any goals. Jorginho from the penalty spot, maybe. And we don't have any goals in this team. Kurt Zuma is one of our top scorers this season from his goals from set pieces. We don't have any goals in this team. So if your main striker, I don't care what you term Timo Werner as, if your main forward, your main striker, your main whatever it is, doesn't get you goals, you're always going to struggle. And with Chelsea, watching them over the last few games, when we go ahead, I back us to keep that lead because we've got something to hold on to. But when we go a goal behind, we struggle to break down teams. And yesterday was just more evidence of it.
Yeah. It's I totally agree, and it's like I said in the previous episodes. I really draw the comparisons with Chelsea to Liverpool in terms of Firmino has that role where he might not score many goals, but he serves a role within the team, and he has well, obviously not this season, but he's had Mane around him, he's had Jota this season, Salah. They're the players that would traditionally get the goals, and he's there to facilitate that team role and sacrifice himself slightly. It almost seems like Werner is, well, one, he's playing with no confidence. Two, he seems to be a little bit too deep for me. And three, when he is in scoring positions, he doesn't seem to be anywhere near clinical enough. And if there's no one else in the team to score goals, what's he actually sacrificing for? Because fair enough to him, he scored a goal in the Champions League semi-final, but that was on his plate. You know what I mean? If he misses that, then I just don't see enough. Like from a Chelsea fan, I understand that you guys are always going to back your guy to the hilt, and I understand that. Like in the group chats, I'm constantly questioning what he offers. But as a football fan, I look at him and I think, I look at strikers around the league and I see what they offer their teams, and I look at City, you play without a striker, and they've got goals all over the pitch. I look at Chelsea and I think, you're where you are because you've got a solid keeper, a solid set of defense, and one of the best holding midfielders in the world. I don't fear Chelsea going forward, and I feel like yesterday showed that.
Yeah, I feel like it's a difficult one. I feel like a number nine, a proper number nine who scores goals, doesn't necessarily need to be mobile. A number nine who can put the ball in the back of the net, whether it's Lukaku, whether
Tammy,
it's Tammy Abraham. Yeah, like whoever it is, somebody who's consistently scoring goals will bring out the best in all the other players. Like if you look at like Lukaku's effect on Lautaro Martinez, or you look at like Haaland's effect on Jadon Sancho or Thorgan Hazard,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
number 9 who can score goals, hold the ball up, and is confident within themselves, has a residual effect on the rest of the team. And I feel that's what Chelsea are missing. And until we resolve that issue, then we're not going to get to the places that we want to get to, despite the fact that we are in the Champions League final.
Yes, it's crazy how football works, man. Because in the last week or so, you've gone from being unfathomably high to
Yeah.
now being at a point where you're, 2 losses on the bounce to Arsenal and Leicester, and now you're questioning. If West Ham won yesterday, it would
Yeah.
have been stressful for you, man. Like, but
Yeah,
you
I
didn't.
think our season's teetering. I feel like if it hinges on Leicester. If we beat Leicester, we finish in the top 4. I feel, and
Yeah.
you don't want it to get to that point. And I don't know, man. It's got to a point where we're a team, because we've got players who are young. When they're riding that wave and they're confident and they feel like they're the best players in the world, they play like it. But when their confidence has been shaken, we don't know how this team's going to react. So it'll be interesting to see how we perform against Leicester. I'm expecting to see a big reaction. And if we don't see a reaction in that game, then you don't want to say it, but the way that Chelsea deal with managers, Tuchel could be in trouble. Say we finish the season outside the top 4, we don't win a trophy.
Tuchel out.
I wouldn't be calling for it, because I feel like we give this guy time. He looks like he knows what he's doing, but you would not be surprised to see Chelsea pull the trigger.
This is how fickle football fans are. Like,
Mad.
it's crazy, so crazy. But yeah, that's enough dejected from us, guys. Like, where can they find us, Quakes?
I feel like we haven't even talked about Leicester enough. I feel like we've just got start talking about Leicester a little bit, and then
Well, no, let's jump into
to...
let's just jump into Leicester. Let's jump in. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we've praised them to the high heavens.
Yeah.
Brendan Rodgers, elite manager. I think Leicester are a top club. From top to bottom, the way they're managed, the owners are top level. But yeah, go on.
It takes, I think this like win takes Leicester, or takes Brendan Rodgers, sorry, to a different level. And I feel like in this country, we always have this resistance to give British managers credit because their name is not Jose, or their name is not Josep, or you know what I mean? They haven't got like the je ne sais quoi, the flair to him. But like Brendan Rodgers, with this win and what he's done with Leicester, it puts him on an elite manager level. He's won the trophy. Like, for his sake, he hopes he gets Champions League football next season. And I don't think you can really question his credentials. I feel like this has put him on a different kind of level, different kind of spectrum. And when these big jobs do come up in football, like we hear Zidane being linked with departing Real Madrid at the end of the season, why isn't someone like Brendan Rodgers linked with a job like that? Because he's done such a fantastic job at Leicester.
Well, Brendan Rodgers has such a tough run of it. Like, even going back to his time at Swansea, were great when they had him. Then he went to Liverpool, obviously. And, without mentioning the Gerrard slip, obviously, if that doesn't happen, Chelsea more than likely go and win the Premier League, when he's manager.
No, Liverpool win Premier League.
That's what I meant, sorry. What did I say?
Chelsea.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it was against Chelsea, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was against Chelsea.
Yeah, sorry, no. If Gerrard didn't slip, Liverpool would have won the Premier League.
Yeah.
Brendan Rodgers doesn't. How does Brendan Rodgers account for his, Mr. Liverpool slipping over and throw it away when it matters most? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I know they had the game against Crystal Palace and all that, but like, Brendan Rodgers has been a great manager for years. Been a great manager for years, and it's just good to see someone, someone from the British Isles, flourishing on the top stage, because it, like I say, it's not a Jose, or it's not a Pep Guardiola or a Jurgen, So fair play to him. Fair play to him.
And the Jamie Vardy story, sorry, this is the last bit left. The Jamie Vardy story has got like not the perfect ending, because I don't want to write his obituary already. Like, Jamie Vardy could go and score 20 league goals next season and kind of prove everybody wrong. But we can kind of see the writing on the wall in terms of he's lost that extra yard of pace that set him apart. We've seen Iheanacho come to prominence, and maybe this is the evolution of Leicester. But like Jamie Vardy, his career played in every single round of the FA Cup, winning it. Like, being Mr. Leicester, being the one that didn't.
He was up for it as well. He was up for it yesterday.
He was so up for it. And and it's kind of, you see Kante, who, like, to his credit, he won the league with Leicester. He departed to Chelsea, won the league there next season. But Jamie Vardy stayed. When you see Riyad Mahrez in the Champions League final, when he sees N'Golo Kante in Champions League final, he saw Ben Chilwell join Chelsea, and Jamie Vardy stayed, and he's got his just rewards, and he will forever go down as not just a legend within England, but I feel like a legend within football as a whole, just because of his story and what he's done, the goals he scored, and how important he's been to a team that's ascended naturally in football, where it's so impossible to do that.
the role here this is a very, very unfair comparison because I was looking at it yesterday, but the role that he plays for Leicester is a role that I feel like Werner should try and play for Chelsea, because
Yeah.
Jamie Vardy is playing on the last defenders. He's constantly pressuring. He's a nuisance, you know. I feel like Werner's trying to do that, but he hasn't got the
Yeah.
the aggressive side to him. Like, you know, look at Jamie Vardy yesterday. He had Reece James on toast in the second half. You know,
Yeah.
Reece James was losing his head, and it was just Jamie Vardy's there amping up the crowd. You know, like that's the play you need. You know, you
Yeah.
need that aggression. You need that, you know, drive in a final. But Chelsea didn't have anyone like that.
I remember literally what 3-4 years ago when Jay Vardy was linked to Arsenal. Arsenal wanted him. He turned them down basically. I remember thinking at the time, I was like, "Yo, man, you've turned down Arsenal. I get it. Like you won the league at Leicester and like the feel good factor or whatnot, but you've turned down a big club. And right now, what you telling me that Leicester are a bigger club than Arsenal and Tottenham in
Oh,
terms of what
facts.
they're doing on the pitch? It's crazy to see how football flips, and kudos to Leicester for doing it the organic way and doing it properly.
Yeah, 100% shout out to Leicester. It's your time. Embrace it. And all I can say is you've got an absolute player in Youri Tielemens. A lot of people say the future of Leicester is James Maddison, but I think the future of Leicester is keeping hold of Ndidi and Tielemens, because Ndidi is just a rock, and Tielemens is just world class. You wouldn't be surprised if he went to the Euros this summer and had an incredible summer with Belgium, because he just looks like he was the best player on the pitch yesterday. You know.
By far.
But yeah, in the meantime, where can they find us, Quakes?
You can find us on Instagram at We Talk Football Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at WTF Podcast 90. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the We Talk Football channel on YouTube, just because we are going to bring you videos very, very regularly. So yeah, check us out, guys.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next time.
Awesome.